Hello, and welcome back to the System Design series. It's great to see you here again. In today's video, we will be discussing cost-based design goals. At a very high level, we can categorize the design goals in 5 different categories. We covered both the performance and dependability-based design goals in the previous videos. In this video, we will continue and dig into cost-based design goals. I'm excited to dive into this topic with you, and I hope that you find this information useful. So without further ado, let's get started. This category of design goals helps us understand the various costs that are associated with the system and how we can keep the cost in control. The cost of software development can vary significantly depending on several factors, including complexity of the project, the type of software to develop, the experience, and the skill of the developer. In general, the cost of software development can range from few $1,000s for a small project to hundreds and thousands of dollars for a simple project and millions of dollars for a complex project. It's also important to note that software development costs are not only limited to the initial development costs for the software. There may be other ongoing costs for maintenance and upgrades as well. Let me share a fun fact with you. Did you know that the cost of building a mobile app can be anywhere between $50,000 to $250,000? If the app can be built under 700 hours, the cost will be in the lower price range. But if you want the same app to work across multiple platforms like the web, Android, iOS, the cost can very easily rise up to 6-figure price. There can be different kind of costs associated with a system. So let's learn each of them in more detail. Development cost. Development cost is the initial cost required to build the system end to end. During each of the SDLC phases, we perform different set of activities. All such activities, including research, building prototypes, performing system design, implementation, and testing, is part of the initial development cost. These costs can include the fees paid to the development team and any third-party tools or services that are needed. Let's move on to the next one, the deployment cost. The deployment cost is the initial cost required to install the system and provide training to the users of the system. Generally, this cost involves setting up and deploying software at client locations and providing user training so that they can understand how to use our system and the functions effectively. Now, depending on where the software has to be installed or deployed, the cost would vary significantly. For example, deploying in a cloud is much faster, cheaper, and more scalable compared to building our own data centers for deployment. I would suggest that unless there is a very specific reason like security or intellectual property concerns, we should be deploying and installing on the cloud as opposed to deploying on our private data centers. As a designer, you should look for ways to reduce the cost by using open source software if possible. I can give you an example. We replaced our backend application server running on WebLogic with open source JBoss solution. Project cost was dramatically reduced by more than 40%. So I would highly encourage that we should look for open source solutions which can help us reduce the cost of the project. Let's look at the next one, the upgrade cost. We generally perform the upgrade of our system to get new features and keep our system up to date for concerns like security, portability, and so on. The cost of upgrading the system can significantly vary depending on the scope of the upgrade and the resources required to complete it. For example, older systems may require more extensive upgrades or may need to be replaced entirely, which will increase the cost. Simple upgrades can have much lower cost, while more complex upgrades may require more resources and expertise, resulting in higher costs. Larger systems with more components may require more resources and time to upgrade, resulting in higher costs as well. The cost of the labor and the material required can vary significantly depending on the location and the experience of the technicians performing the upgrade. Administration cost. This is the recurring cost required to keep the system running. Now let's look into what different kind of recurring costs we may have. So let's say we have a service and our user base keeps on growing. In order to accommodate the user base, we increase our storage and computing footprint. So that is a recurring cost that we have to incur. Let me give you another example. We want to take snapshot and back up our database on a weekly basis. This may be required for compliance or redundancy reasons. As a policy, we have to keep each of these backups for at least 1 year. So as we keep on creating backups, our backup storage footprint keeps on growing, and we may have to pay a recurring cost to a storage provider in order to retain all those backups. Other costs may include software testing, security reviews, regular patches that we have to make a system, and many more. And this is required to make sure that the systems are healthy and up and running all the time. I remember we moved from using a third-party email service that was costing us almost like $2,000 per month, and we set up a local SendMail server, and that helped us to save the monthly recurring costs going forward. The next cost is the maintenance cost. Maintenance cost is the ongoing cost that's required to fix bugs and enhance the system. We have to spend time and resources in order to find and fix the defects and eventually roll out patches in order to fix them. So we work on building and releasing new functionality based on the new requirements that we receive from stakeholders to keep our product and service relevant in the market. One of the important ways to reduce the number of defects is to make sure that we build unit test, integration, and end-to-end tests so that we can have a close to 100% coverage. I can attest this from my experience. My team took ownership of a product from another team. The product only had around 35% of test coverage. I remember it was very risky to work on enhancing the core functionality of the product, as we did not have enough test cases to back it up. In one instance, rolling out a change even led to a site outage, and we had to quickly roll back the change in order to mitigate it. Subsequently, I organized a hackathon within my team to increase the code coverage by writing more unit tests. This was the best investment we had made, and over time we increased the code coverage to more than 90%, making it exponentially safer for us to build and roll out new features. Our goal should be to design in such a way that the cost of building, deploying, upgrading, administering, and maintaining our system is low. That's all for this video. In the next one, we will cover the other design goal categories, maintenance, and end user criteria. Please do subscribe if you haven't done so that you can get notified whenever new video is released. Till then, keep learning.